Hello and welcome to our Best Practices in ECE Kindergarten Guide. This is webinar 2 of 2, and this webinar will review phase 2 of the Best Practices in ECE Kindergarten Guide, focusing on learning environments. Our agenda for today is to review current supports and timelines, review background information of this work, review the usability and functionality of the Kindergarten Guide web pages, review connections to the TEKS, and discuss next steps for implementation. Here are the objectives for today's session. Review key content and best practices in ECE Kindergarten Guide, and explore next steps for technical support with the best practices in ECE guides with upcoming webinars and office hours. First, let's start with reviewing the current supports and timelines for the Kindergarten Guide work. We currently have the Kindergarten Guideline documents published on our webpage. These include webinar recordings as well as office hours dates. In addition, we have our pre-K through second grade vertical alignment documents available in all domains within the Educator Resources webpage. Our work currently in progress includes the best practices in early childhood education pre-K, kindergarten, and administrator guides. You are here attending the second webinar in a two-part series for kindergarten educators. Office hours to support the pre-K, kindergarten, and admin guides began in August and will continue through the fall. Today you are attending phase 2 of our kindergarten webinars looking at physical arrangement, classroom organization routines, learning centers and stations, activity and lesson planning and curriculum implementation, and daily schedules. Let's review some of the background information for this work. A while back, parts of the introduction section of the 2015 Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guidelines were taken out in order to provide a condensed format of the 2022 guidelines with a focus on skills and outcomes. The decision was made to compile that content as a separate resource, which turned out to be the Pre-K ECE Guidelines. As we conducted pre-kindergarten guideline focus groups, we found that there was a need from the field to provide more support with best practices not only in pre-kindergarten, but also in kindergarten, and guidance for early administrators who support early childhood educators. We began to review some of this content and we realized that we needed a more thorough review of current research in early childhood, especially since that information was provided back in 2015. We also realized that we needed to have a condensed, user-friendly, and easily accessible format available for educators, which is where we came up with the idea of web pages, to include the need for exemplars in the field in order to provide a more practical application of these best practices. As we look at the Best Practices Kindergarten Guide, remember our purpose is to support educators by providing effective, high-quality instructional practices in early childhood classrooms. Our target audiences for this Kinder Guide are teachers, teacher assistants, district coaches, site coaches, and any instructional staff that supports our kindergarten classrooms. The physical arrangement of the kindergarten classroom is a vital component in achieving a successful learning environment for young children. Overall, we want to use the physical space to promote language and literacy. Creating a classroom community that promotes children's language and literacy development requires that print-rich materials be located throughout the classroom. Well-stocked learning centers should be supplied with printed materials like posters, labels, fiction and nonfiction books that promote the integration of a multitude of academic concepts. Materials should also be representative of the cultural and linguistic background. So think of your play food representing different cultures. Materials should also be engaging and developmentally appropriate and should support instruction. When thinking about storage, use bins to organize materials and label them in the language of instruction. Storage needs to be organized in a way that makes sense to the children because that promotes responsibility and independence. Classroom displays need to be engaging, representative of the children, and useful, so refrain from displays that are overwhelming and visually distracting. And think about the traffic patterns and furniture. This involves logical and coordinated arrangement of the centers, arranging furniture to allow for a clear pathway, having child-sized furniture, and making sure accessibility is appropriate, so if the child has to reach up, it's too high, while also ensuring you can see the children at all times. This brings us to safety. Little accessibility for all children, including those with physical accommodations, and teacher materials should always be locked away from children. This includes technology, supplies like adult scissors, and cleaning supplies. Here we have an exemplar of the physical arrangement in the classroom. We see clear traffic patterns, it's free of clutter, has clear walkways and entrance to areas. Posters are at eye level, it's not cluttered again, has functional use of the wall space, and has classroom displays. Here we have a non-exemplar. A positive of this arrangement is that the bins are labeled and the children will be able to figure out where things go. However, would it be easy for children to find what they need? And would it be accessible for children with physical accommodations? Let's continue with classroom organization. A well-organized classroom with well-prepared activities helps children expand their attention span and build self-control and personal responsibility while supporting children's self-regulation, overall well-being, and receptiveness to learning. What we have highlighted in this guide is not exhaustive, but includes classroom norms, classroom procedures, color-coded or labeled pertinent areas of the room, labeled objects with print or pictures for quick identification, visual scaffolds for procedures, and a visual daily schedule. Now we are going to move on to learning centers. The physical arrangement of the kindergarten classroom includes learning areas designed by the teacher in which students participate in hands-on activities to reinforce concepts and developmental skills using a wide range of open-ended materials through play. In alignment with developmentally appropriate practices, engagement in learning centers should be freely chosen, so think of free choice, by the child, uninterrupted, and should include the use of a wide variety of materials to support meaningful learning. The following centers encourage children to engage in hands-on, open-ended, meaningful experiences that support developmentally appropriate play. Please note that the items and tasks mentioned are suggested and do not include an exhaustive list of materials or activities that can be used in each center. We have the Dramatic Play and Pretend and Learn Center, the Construction Center, the Library Literacy ABC Center, Writing Center, Art Creativity Center, Science and Discovery Center, and Sensory Center. Although learning centers may vary in the title or even in the physical arrangement within the classroom, the goal is to ultimately ensure that the purpose of these free choice areas integrate a variety of different learning concepts, opportunities, and experiences. One concept to consider in the early childhood classroom is cross-area or cross-content play. This includes materials coming together from different areas of the classroom to spark creativity and encourage children's imaginations. In essence, cross-area or cross-content play is rooted in the idea that children be given the freedom to experiment with materials in open-ended ways. This can support both elaborate play schema and developmental learning opportunities. During the center time, the teacher can serve as a guide, an arbitrator should conflict arise, a participant, or an observer. The teacher can visit each center and engage in conversations with the students to probe for learning that may be occurring during this time. The teacher can make non-directive statements, close or open-ended questions, statements that don't require a response, and collect formative assessment data in the form of artifacts or pictures. As children engage in centers, the teacher can instruct through the scaffold of play. During this time, the teacher can teach vocabulary, math, literacy, and other content skills through role play depending on the context of the center. These moments of independent play offer the teacher an entry point to support their students' development, and the teacher also uses this time to mentally strategize for future instruction based on their observations. The use of technology has many benefits given that children use it appropriately and educators understand the implication of its use in the classroom. When using technology and media tools appropriately, early childhood educators can use them to enhance without replacing creative play, exploration, activities, conversations, and social interactions among children in the classroom. Technology best practices include explicitly teaching digital citizenship as set forth by the TEKS, such as demonstrating acceptable use of technology resources, identifying ways to stay safe online by not sharing confidential information, and demonstrating knowledge and appropriate use of technology. Keep in mind that these standards will be updated as they change. Using technology for active joint engagement and interactions such as co-viewing a media and asking children questions about what they are viewing or playing or making connections to what they have learned. Setting parameters for screen time based on leading research, which says that screen time, which includes TV, videos, digital media, etc., to be less than 1 hour for a full day of instruction, and that children older than 2 years engage in no more than 1 hour or less per day of high quality programming. We know the use of technology has many benefits within academic settings. However, it is important to note that avoiding overuse of technology is the goal, specifically in the early childhood setting. With the number of devices available in our classrooms, it is important to keep in mind that any and all technology use counts as screen time. We want to note that we would also include guidance on what you can do with technology in the classroom in a meaningful, productive way. Let's move on to learning stations. Learning stations reinforce content skills such as literacy or math and are used to build students' understanding of a topic or theme. Learning stations have a particular goal or standard relating to a content area. While the student may choose the station he or she will work on, the activity or outcome in the station is outlined by the teacher. The work designated by the teacher should require little to no assistance. The following are some examples of learning stations in the kindergarten classroom. Note that this list is not an exhaustive list. Name activities, letter sorting games, reading around the room, counting sets of objects, and comparing numbers. Kindergarten activities and lesson planning should begin with the implementation of the TEKS, then using the locally adopted instructional materials to plan the suggested lessons and activities. Remember that the goal is to help build developmental skills and give children everything they need to demonstrate school readiness. Certain practices are important to keep in mind, such as repeated exposures to content, teaching content across a variety of contexts, such as engaging all the senses, and allowing children to practice those skills with guidance or independently. Think of the differentiated instruction, the module of gradual release we covered in our previous webinars. These practices should be used alongside a locally adopted but approved high-quality instructional curriculum from a recommended list. Let's move on to the daily schedules. Here are some recommendations. A daily schedule should be displayed at the child's eye level and contain words and pictures or icons for identification. The daily schedule should be referenced throughout the school day and consistently followed, although adaptations should be made based on student or school needs. A daily schedule should include ample time for transitions and self-help procedures such as hand washing and gathering of personal belongings. And daily group activities should include cross-content learning experiences throughout the school day. Daily schedules may consider guidance from the use of a high-quality kindergarten curriculum. Like mentioned before, it should be continuously referenced throughout the school day. Like mentioned previously, there should be embedded time for transitions and self-help procedures. Daily group activities should include cross-content learning experiences throughout the school day. And in addition, we recommend the purpose and function of whole group and small group instruction, with whole group being 15 to 20 minutes of information and community building. And here the teacher may engage in activities such as read alouds, music and movement, morning message, daily schedule review, attendance or helper charts, or inquiry-based discussions. And for small group instruction, teachers should provide a balance of deeper understanding through intentional instruction of concepts, differentiated instruction, and child-led hands-on experiences for a short period of time from 10 to 15 minutes. The activities should be engaging and include open-ended conversations, with children taking on an active role using manipulatives, books, and pictures as opposed to worksheets and flashcards. Small group activities could include content review, collaborative learning such as the pair share or partner activities, art and writing experiences, or hands-on projects. And keep in mind, whole group and small group instruction support peer-to-peer collaborative and communicative opportunities and essentially work hand in hand in supporting the TEKS. Let's review the next steps for this work. Our next office hours are on October 24th, and this will be the best practices support for all guides. And just remember that the recordings from previously held best practices in ECE guide webinars are available on the ECE webpage.